ready to listen to reason now, Kevin Gray? Do I have your attention now? Are you finally ready to listen to me now? Do you and your Facebook free? I mean, not Facebook, your social media buddies get it when I speak? Things happen, about certain things around here. I tried to warn you guys. I tried to warn you. You didn't want to listen, but it's only week one, right? It's only just week one.
It's only week one. It's only week one.
Right. I mean, what did I tell you? The Lakers are going to be bad. The Mavericks didn't start off well. And I think I told you that the Golden State Warriors were going to be pretty good this season, right? I told you that, right? Going to be pretty good this season, right?
You think you're Walstradamus after just 1 week of basketball.
Thank you. I am an idiot savant. That's exactly what I am.
That's just what you need, another nickname. There you go.
Another one. I'm a savant. Thank you, sir. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Good to see you once again right here on the Clear Path on Fanatics View, episode number 2. So looking forward to getting down the business with you, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna be picking up that new Mavs ice tomorrow before the game. Are you going to the game tomorrow? The Mavs game tomorrow?
I will be at the American Airlines Center tomorrow, and that is the Mavericks have their home season opener against the Houston Rockets. Young Jalen Green coming in with that.
Hope they win.
Houston Rockets squad. You hope the Mavericks win.
Yeah, hope the Mavericks win.
Oh, okay. I had to make sure you was clear there on that.
Now listen, I want to warn everybody, okay? Don't take the Houston Rockets lightly. Don't think this is going to be a pushover basketball game. I watched these kids play the other night. They're doing some things over there in Houston. This Jalen Green kid.
I was at practice today and talking with Jason Kidd and the folks over there. They're not taking this Rockets team lightly. Jalen Green has played, very well so far for them, and he's going to be a fun one to watch. He's going to be a leading candidate for NBA Rookie of the Year.
That's your candidate, right?
Yes.
You got for Rookie of the Year, okay.
Yes, it is. So he's going to score a lot of points because he's going to get a lot of opportunities to score a lot of points for the Houston Rockets, and so far he's doing that. So should be a fun one in the American Airlines Center. Fans going to have a lot of pent-up energy inside the AAC. The last time they were in there was for the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Mavericks did not handle their business inside the AAC during the playoffs. So Mavericks fans will be.
They were there for a couple preseason games.
Well, yeah, but better.
I know preseason doesn't count for you.
Yeah, a regular season atmosphere for these fans will be fun to watch. So I'm excited to be inside the building tomorrow night as they host Stephen Silas and the Houston Rockets tomorrow night.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about the Mavs because we got to go right into that as we start off. Let's talk about it. Night one didn't go so well. Caught a hot L from the Atlanta Hawks, where Ice Trae, as we like to call him, Ice Trae.
Yeah, because he was cold in the second half.
Yeah, he was cold. He was very cold in the second half. But I tell you what, it didn't start off great, and they lost to the Hawks when Trae Young really didn't play that good of a game to start off. So what do you take from that game one? Because, there was a lot of overreaction. I saw some people already calling for Coach Kidd's job and all this other stuff after game one.
Well, I mean, you give the Atlanta Hawks a lot of credit for one. This is a team that, of course, made the Eastern Conference Finals last year, and they were in the East Finals for a reason. And you saw that with John Collins, Clint Capella, Trae Young. Trae Young, 12 points, 11 assists, only 1 turnover in the second half against the Dallas Mavericks. And the Mavericks just could not make shots. Defensively, they were okay throughout the game, not great.
First half they were.
Yeah,
second half, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Well, give Nate McMillan and that coaching staff credit. They picked and rolled the Mavericks to death, in the second half when you got Collins and Trae Young and Clint Capella, who's a terrific rim runner and finisher at the rim. It's easy to do that. And the problem was defensively for the Mavericks, you've got Kristaps Porzingis playing at the 4 trying to guard a guy in John Collins. And then you've got an undersized center in Dwight Powell trying to get down with Clint Capella. And you saw how that worked out, as good as
he got 12 and 13 put on his head is what happened.
Yeah, Porzingis doesn't have the lateral movement and the quickness to stay with a John Collins playing at the 4 on the defensive side. So Collins was really able to have his way, especially in pick and roll situations. And Collins is a good enough shooter from the 3-point line where you've got to respect it, and he can draw you away from the basket, but he's also good enough off the dribble to where he can make some things happen in terms of plays for his teammates. So it was just a bad matchup, I thought, for the Mavericks on their opening night. And give the Hawks a lot of credit, played much better in the second half. Trae Young was much better in the second half, and the Hawks, dismantled them the way that they did. And it was a wake-up call, I think, for the Mavericks, especially. They weren't making shots. Shot the ball poorly from the three-point line, shot the ball poorly, overall from the field. But at the same time, the Hawks are just a bad matchup, and they exploited them in several different ways. Offensive spacing was bad. It was just a bad overall night for the Mavericks on opening night.
Well, I just want to make this known. Apparently, Dwight Powell was working for Wendy's that night because he gave me a 4 for 4 on that night. 4 rebounds and 4 points. So apparently he was working for Wendy's that night. And I've been vocal about this even before it was announced. I don't agree with him being a starter. I think that's a no-no. And he looked very lost at times out there on the court. And like I said, Clint Capella put 12 and 13 on his head. Bad. And it just they went with it. Now, in the Toronto game, I'll give him, he played it better in the second half, but he started off bad in that game too. The Mavericks need to address the center position. If a lot of people are trying to figure out why is it Moses Brown playing, that's somebody who I see right now. If it were me, I mean, neither one of them are good, but I would start Cauley-Stein just for hype purposes. Just me, honestly.
Well, like you said, folks have been wondering about why Moses Brown isn't playing at this point. There's still a very raw talent, at the center position. And the only thing I can surmise right now at this point is that the Mavericks don't feel like he's ready to have more of a significant role on this team. And at this point, that's okay. We're only 2 games in, and you've got to figure out what is happening in terms of this rotation, with Powell, with Cauley-Stein. Boban's a situational big, of course, at this point. So Moses Brown at some point will get his opportunities. But right now, Kid is still figuring out rotations and figuring out who are going to be the guys that he can count on so far. And you had a bad
Eugene hadn't got any playing time either.
Well, yeah, he's going to be, a two-way guy, anyway. So I don't expect to see, a lot of him, at all really this season. But, you had one game, bad against Atlanta, and you were able to bounce back on the road against Toronto in a much better way, especially in the second half against Toronto. So, and Jason Kidd told us at media availability today, it's a very, very small sample size, 2 games. We're trying to figure some things out here, spacing-wise, offensively, getting more consistent and trust in terms of the chemistry with the team. But what you cannot see is Dorian Finney-Smith posting up a couple of times and Dwight Powell taking threes.
Oh, God.
That's not a good idea for Mavericks.
That's a recipe. Yeah, as the mayor of Dub City, that's not gonna get you in Dub City with your boy.
No,
Dwight Powell shooting threes, and I don't know what Dodo. In the Raptors game, he turned into Dorian Finney-Swish, as we like to call him. But in that first,
he was good defensively too, especially in the second half. Was Dorian Finney-Smith?
Yeah, he was. Now, in the Toronto game, I felt like this is where we saw the greatness of Coach Kidd. Coach Kidd was very patient in that game. To me, what I felt like was watching the game, going back and watching too, he let the Raptors get hot, and then I guess he figured, don't worry, they're not going to keep doing this. When the time is right, we will strike. And they struck, and they took the lead, and they never looked back.
Well, the problem I had is that, you let OG Anunoby, kind of get off a little bit, had 20 points in the first half, really couldn't miss a shot from the 3-point line. And you give the Mavericks credit that they made the adjustment, in the second half to really put the clamps on him. Dorian Finney-Smith doing a much better job on him in the second half. And I thought the spacing offensively for the Mavericks was much better in the second half. I mean, it doesn't hurt, that Tim Hardaway Jr. and Luka Doncic combined for 21 points in that third quarter. And that was the grand total that the Raptors had themselves. I mean, the Mavericks
said the grand total tonight, when it was over, they scored for a total of 50 points combined after it was over with.
Yeah, so, you combine for 21 in that third quarter, tied the score of the Raptors team all together. But I thought defensively is where they were able to really lock things down. That was the lowest scoring quarter of the game for the Toronto Raptors. And on the offensive end, Tim Hardaway got hot from the three-point line, went 3 of 3 from the three-point line in the third quarter. At one point made 5 straight threes between the third and the fourth quarter and really stabilized that offense. Meanwhile, Luka Doncic really turned things around in that third quarter there, stabilized things with some drives to the basket, finding open teammates. He had 12 points of his own and really looked like the Luka that we expect to see from him. He finished with 27 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds, just 1 rebound short of his 37th career triple-double. So the Mavs look more like themselves, especially in that second half against Toronto, and you give credit for them making those adjustments to be able to get the win on the road there.
Well, yeah, on that post-game show that we do over there on the BFB page, it's been known that Tim Hardaway Jr., when he's shooting like that, we call him 3 to Hardaway. That's who he turned into the other night when they were falling. I mean, this guy was – and you know what, Kevin Gray, that's what it's going to take, okay? When he's shooting like that, that's when the Mavericks don't lose game, I've noticed. They don't lose games when he's shooting the rock like that.
I mean, and the numbers kind of backed it up. Like last year, for example, Dallas went 5-1 when he made at least 7 3-pointers. Right. They were 7-2 when he scored at least 25 points. So when Tim Hardaway is cooking, this team wins basketball games. And you saw that again against the Toronto Raptors, and that's a good sign that, a guy who got a nice contract in the offseason has picked up right where he left off last year. Struggled a little bit, obviously, in the first game against the Hawks, but was able to bounce back with a really nice performance against Toronto. So you're hoping as the season continues to roll on that Tim Hardaway remains that consistent force from the three-point line, especially now that he's going to be remaining, in the starting lineup as a starter now at this point in his career. So give credit to Tim Hardaway Jr. for the way that he played on against the Raptors.
Well, I don't know if you were listening the other day. You were doing morning drive. Check out you guys. That's 105.3 The Fan over there you work at, right?
Yes, you can catch me on 105.3 The Fan. That is correct.
Well, you were doing some radio that morning, so I don't know if you got to hear it, but Kendrick Perkins was on with the KMC Masterpiece, and he brought up something that was kind of interesting to me when he was talking about Luka. He said, I don't know if Luka is in shape yet. Do you have that concern about Luka? He said because they were asking him about what do you think about Luka's play. Luka isn't getting off to a high start. He's like, Luka's playing his way back in shape. He's like, I don't think Luka's quite in shape yet.
That's how I know Kendrick Perkins doesn't pay attention to anything.
Oh, come on, man. Perk wouldn't lie?
Well, he lied there because Luka played basketball all summer long with the Olympic team for Slovenia. He was playing against the best competition, in the world. What we saw from him in terms of his, his workouts and those kinds of things. Even if you just compare the photo from him from 2020's media day to 2021's media day, it's night and day the way that Luka Doncic looks. He looks healthy. He looks in shape. He looks slim and trim and looks like a guy that's ready to play. And you saw that come to fruition more so against the Toronto Raptors. So I don't know what Kendrick Perkins is looking at or thinking about, because if he was thinking,
I think that was before the Raptors game, because Raptors game
was
Saturday.
He's still wrong.
It was at the game one.
Well, he was still wrong because if nothing else, Luka Doncic came into shape this season after what he – and look, last year Doncic talked about it. Didn't think the season was going to start nearly as early as it did, and a lot of guys didn't come into the kind of shape that they wanted to. Now, the only one that did, it felt like, was Nikola Jokic, because he came in day one, house on fire last year. But no, Doncic is definitely in shape and basketball shape and ready to go. So I don't know what Kendrick Perkins is talking about.
You want to show KP any love? I mean, KP's balled out 42 games. You want to show him any love, or we just want to keep propping up Luka here?
Well, look, man, give credit to Kristaps Porzingis, especially on the defensive end right now. Had 4 blocks, against the Toronto Raptors.
Big stops. When he's doing them blocks, big stops, Porzingis is what we call him.
Yeah, and the big thing is that, he's helping off weak side, being able to come over and help protect the rim. And I think what was most impressive about his performance against Toronto was that, he stayed locked in defensively, didn't have a great shooting night, but at the same time, Porzingis, as long as he stays engaged, he'll be fine, whether shots are falling or not. And one of the things that he's been able to do, at least his time with the Mavericks for the most part, when he's not playing well offensively, is that he usually stays engaged defensively. That's kind of what helped him spring his game forward when he initially came back. Was he struggled on the offensive end, but defensively, he tried to stay locked in as much as possible. So he came into the season healthy. You're starting to see that come to fruition on the defensive end. And more importantly, hopefully that bodes well for him to translate to his offensive game, because still trying to find his way in this kid offense, especially playing primarily at the 4 spot. So give credit to Porzingis, though, for the way that he played defensively against Toronto, and hopefully that's a sign of things to continue to come going forward for him.
Well, there's another situation I want to ask you about. My Coach Kidd, I don't know if you know, I helped him get the job. Coach Kidd, yeah, big deal to do with that. I'll tell you about that later. But okay. Coach Kidd has been catching a lot of criticism just in general, but he caught some after the Toronto game. I want you to hear this audio and see, is this criticism fair that you guys are putting on my coach here?
As if you're not part of this too. Very nice.
Well, I love Coach Kidd. I don't have any criticism other than the 3-point shots that we were taking. I thought we weren't doing that, but that's another story for another. I'll have a talk with Coach Kidd about that later. But I want you to hear this audio of somebody, pretty much asking him a question he did. Not that he didn't like it. Just see how you feel about it. And I think this is Nick Van Exit, he calls himself, who asked this question here.
Hey, Coach. Reggie Bullock was the big free agency addition this offseason, and he hasn't played more than 17 minutes the first couple of games. I'm curious, is he limited by something right now, or is there another reason why, or your thoughts on why he's not a bigger part of the rotation?
Well, to answer your question, honestly, we've only played 2 games. So would you like him to play 24 minutes, or how would you like to see it?
I'm just curious if he was limited by anything, or if he was
no. This is an early journey, and you have to be patient. A famous player said this is an instant oatmeal. This is going to take time to cook. And so I have to apologize that you felt that he should have played more.
Okay, one more here. Did you hear that? We had to apologize. Basically, we're sorry you feel that way type of response there. What did you feel about that? Did you feel?
Well, look, I mean, Reggie Bullock is getting paid over $10 million for the Mavericks.
Whoa, I didn't know you were accounting in your spare time.
Those are just facts. Those are just facts.
Okay. I didn't know we were counting chips live on the show tonight.
Those are just reporting the facts as they stand. And, to Kid's point, he's right. It's early on in the season. I think the expectation for Bullock was this is a guy that was going to be, a true 6th man who can come in as a 3-and-D wing, shoot the ball from the 3-point line, which he does, nearly a 40% career 3-point shooter, and really have a dramatic effect on this rotation. So far, that hasn't happened as of yet. But as I said earlier, it's a small sample size at this point, and figuring out rotations and getting consistency with those rotations is going to be a work in progress, through the first 20, 25 games of the season. So I think that speaks more to what fans may feel like needs to happen from a rotational standpoint, and it's not happened as of yet. So I don't expect Bullock to continue to struggle. There's a reason why the Mavericks brought him in, and a reason why this guy has been regarded throughout the years as one of the better 3-and-D guys in the NBA, especially with his ability to defend in multiple positions, on the perimeter. So I'm not necessarily concerned about Bullock at this point. You would think otherwise, the way folks reacted to my timeline on Twitter today when I caught Luka, practicing free throws with Coach Darrell Armstrong and Coach Igor. Reggie Bullock had missed like 4 or 5 3-pointers in a row, and folks were like, Reggie Bullock is this, Reggie Bullock is that. I'm like, look, man,
don't you just love social media?
Like, just chill out. My man's gonna be okay. So I'm okay with Bullock. And the 17, 18 minutes that he's getting so far, again, that's part of figuring out these rotations. As Kid said, this thing is going to take time to cook. So I was okay with it. The response was a little weird. Like, it was funny and kind of weird at the same time. Kid has been talking in this real kind of monotone type of
voice. That's how my coach
keep
talks.
It real even.
We don't get upset. We don't get upset like that.
Here you go with this weed stuff again. I didn't know that you had real affiliation. I thought you were just an advocate and not necessarily
exactly. I've been advocating for Coach Kidd. Remember? I told you I got him here. I was a big person of having him coach the team.
I couldn't tell by the Knicks shirt that you're wearing. But
don't worry about that. That's just front running. Don't worry. We'll talk about them later. It's just front running.
But yeah, I'm okay so far. Again, it's 2 games. It's 2 games, people. 2 games. It's okay.
Yeah, nothing to panic about here. Like I said, we saw the genius of him in the Toronto game. And that's pretty much what it boils down to. But I tell you what I want to do. I want to switch topics real quick. This is something that we came up with where I like to ask question: who balled out this week? Where we find out who balled this week and who had the best performances so far within the 1 to 2 weeks. I guess we're going into week 2 now. But let me ask you this, Kevin Gray. With what we've seen so far, who do you think had balled out this past week? Now, we know that I think it was Miles Bridges and Steph Curry won Players of the Week already.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to start there. Stephen Curry, 31 points. The Warriors went 3-0. Their first 2 wins over the Clippers and the Lakers, and Stephen Curry went 13 of 17 from the 3-point line in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody has reannounced himself as an MVP candidate early on to start off the season, it's Stephen Curry. And I'm sorry, wait a minute. Let me back up. I read that completely wrong. I'm sorry. His brother, Seth Curry, went 13 of 17 from the 3-point line. Excuse me. I was reading the wrong one. I want to make sure I get that correct. Seth Curry went 13 of 17 from the 3-point line in week 1. Curry had the 31 points and led the Warriors to a 3-0 record. Needless to say, the Curry brothers were on fire during week 1 of the NBA season. And as Dallas Mavericks fans know, who are still crying and complaining about the trade that the Mavericks made, sending away sending away Seth Curry
Terrible
to
move.
Bring in Josh Richardson. Look, I will say this. In defense of that trade, I thought it was the right move at the time based on what Josh Richardson was, and I get why they made the move. I wouldn't necessarily have done it, but I understood why they did it. It didn't work out, and Seth Curry continues to be a sharpshooter from the 3-point line, going 13 of 17. Golden State, though, themselves was a plus 24 in the fourth quarter during week 1 of the NBA season. They were spectacular, and that doesn't even mention, a guy in LaMelo Ball and his brother Lonzo Ball. Lonzo out here leading Chicago, with Alex Caruso.
Finally, they gave my guy a team he can grow and blossom with. Finally.
Well, Billy Donovan's just letting him, cut it loose. Like Billy Donovan's letting Lonzo Ball, run the show. Yeah. And he's already got a triple-double already with Chicago, and they're playing, some pretty good basketball. So the Curry brothers stood out to me. Obviously, Lonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball playing well, for the Charlotte Hornets, in week 1. Ja Morant was spectacular against the Lakers. I feel bad for him, missed the free throw, at the end of the game, but still at the same time, averaging over 35 points per game, shooting over 58% from the field, 44% from the 3-point line, 8 assists a game. Ja Morant had a terrific first week of the NBA this year. So, a lot of guys balled out. Nikola Jokic was really good. Karl Anthony Towns led Minnesota to a 2-0 record. So there was a lot of guys that opened up the first week of the NBA season and balled out during the first week of the NBA season.
Do you understand why I said that Golden State Warriors would probably go back to the finals and probably win this year? When you have a guy in Draymond Green who has bought into saying, I don't need to score. I need to make sure that the best shooter in the world is getting the ball and shooting the ball. That's hard. That for him to come out and say that and to go out there and actually do it, that makes them a hard threat right now. Because this guy here, and who's keeping up with Steph Curry if he's not on the ball? You can't keep up with him.
Well, I think one of the more underrated signings this offseason was the signing of Bielisa for the Golden State Warriors. He's played well so far from them. They're doing a lot more ball movement, in Golden State, this season. So they've got some – look, when you've got the greatest shooter on the face of the planet, in Stephen Curry, it's easy to move the basketball and to get him open shots. He already runs off the screens. He runs folks ragged all night long. And he continues to be a guy that is virtually unguardable, like his range as soon as he steps foot across the half-court line. So what Steve Kerr has been able to do is like, hey, We're going to spread this thing out, move the ball, and let our best player do what he does. And Draymond Green, is going to continue to do what he does, with his defense and his rebounding and pushing tempo. So you give the Warriors credit. And again, Klay Thompson won't be back until, after the potentially or right before the All-Star break, if that. So this team still has time to figure out who they are. And once Thompson gets back and comes back healthy, once it gets over being butthurt about, not being on the 75th anniversary team.
It's a very good gripe. Very good gripe right there. Very good gripe. My guy should be number 75, if not number 70 on that list.
Well, there were several players that should have been on the list. Hello, Alex English. Hello, Dikembe Mutombo. There were several players that did not make the 75th anniversary team.
Yeah, I was upset Grant Hill didn't make that. I feel like Grant Hill didn't make that. But then Grant Hill was hurt a lot. But here's the thing. So what I tell you about that Klay Thompson deal, when the time is right, we just going to drop him right in there, and this thing going to be over with. We're going to be cooking with grits.
We're going to see, but give the Warriors credit for their first week of the season. I thought they played really good, and Stephen Curry reminded folks that, hey, there was a reason why I led the NBA in scoring last year, and he picked up, right where he left off.
Remember, that is one of my picks to be MVP. That is one of my guys that I picked to be MVP.
Yeah.
Now we were talking about Ja Morant. Let's go over to him real quick because I want you to hear some comments that he made after his performance.
I feel like we've been making statements, since I got drafted here, and was receiving the same thing, no respect. So I focus on going out each and every game to win instead of worrying about, if we respect it or not.
I love his mentality, man. Ja Morant is a true baller, and someone said, look, man, it's not about making statements. At this point, we're past trying to make statements. We're trying to win ball games. And at some point, a team has to grow up and mature to start winning ball games. And Morant seems like he's at that place. Like the performance he had against the Lakers, I mean, come on, man. If it wasn't for,
to lose that game was heartbreaking.
I mean, if it wasn't for Olympic Melo, going off the way that he did, had 28 points in 28 minutes, who knows how that game, turns out. But Morant's going to be a baller for a long time, got a terrific future. He's got a ferocity and a competitiveness that a lot of kids his age don't have, and it's something that's infectious for his teammates. So I love Morant as a player. I think he'll be an all-star this year. That's how good Ja Morant is already, and I think the Grizzlies are going to have a good one for a long, long time out there.
Yeah, of course, like you say, he missed a free throw or whatever, but to me, I've always since I watched him, I felt like he's Allen Iverson with hops, is what Ja Morant is to me. That's exactly, if I had to take somebody, that's exactly who he is.
He plays a style of game that just is above the rim.
Yes.
He attacks the paint. He's a taller, more athletic version of, to me, Russell Westbrook, and a better shooter at that, honestly.
Yes. Oh, my God. That jump shot, he's got busted. Speaking of which, I want to give honorable mention to the team I'm wearing. You see that right there in the Knicks? You were saying I was looking at you do some social media, some Twitters. You were tweeting, and you said, I think that was yesterday. If it wasn't yesterday or Saturday, you said, man, the Knicks are fun to watch.
Yeah, and, Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, and watching them the other night, it was fun to watch. I mean, them in Boston, it was raining inside the Garden. The threes were raining down.
I tell people this all the time, man. The league is better when the Knicks are good. And no, I'm serious, because it doesn't get much more electric than a Knicks game inside the Garden when that place is rocking. And you saw that during the first week of the season. I'm happy for Kemba Walker, gets to go home, play in front of his...
I think that is a good spot for him. That might be the best spot for him.
I think it's perfect for him. He's comfortable there. They're going to let him be him. And Julius Randle's turned himself into an all-star. I think he's going to be an all-star again, this year. I think what's underrated about Randle is that he's a really good passer. And Randle continues to show that. So I know they caught the loss, at home against the Magic for Jamal Mosley's first win as Orlando Magic head coach. But, as long as Tibbs doesn't run that team into the ground, they'll be fine. He plays a real hard style. They like to play a lot of defense. But as long as he doesn't run them into the ground, the Knicks are going to be competing for, a 4 or 5 seed, in the Eastern Conference, once again. So it's about whether or not they can increase that ceiling, beyond that. But no, I love watching the Knicks play. They play hard. They play fast. Evan Fournier has been really good for them so far this season. I like what the Knicks have built last year and are building upon this year. So yeah, when I tweeted that out, I was like, yeah, this team is fun to watch, man. They like to have fun and play defense, and they can shoot basketball. So
another team that this isn't good. I don't want to give them any type of praise right now. The Lakers. We got a dumpster fire going on over there right now.
Oh boy. Look,
really
man.
bad situation going on over there. We got fighting on the bench. We got LeBron quitting on plays. We got Rondo making finger guns at fans, and shooting them when he does it over there in LA. What? I told you
Trouble
this wasn't going to work.
Town.
Yeah, this wasn't going to work. I don't think it's going to get turned around. And I made this known the other day on Twitter. I said that the Lakers are going to go into fire sale by the trade deadline, and I want some of those players when they start going on fire sale.
Well, I don't think necessarily that'll happen, but at the same time, look, just like the Mavericks, this is a work in progress. You've got a lot of veteran guys led by LeBron. Well, here's what's good about that is that at this point in their careers, it's a lot like how when Boston came together with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Mm-hmm. Veterans who had not had the kind of success individually that they felt that they could have collectively if they played together. Right. And that's where Russell Westbrook and that's where Carmelo Anthony, and a lot of these guys are in their careers. They've all individually have had success outside of each other, but now at this point in their careers, the only thing that's missing for each of them is a championship. And you've got that chance with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, running there. So I'm not concerned about the Lakers in that way yet. The only thing I'm concerned about them is that this team is the ARP of the West. They are old. But what's interesting about watching them play so far is that they've been trying to run with teams so far, which I find to be interesting for a team that, I would think is trying to conserve their legs. And the biggest takeaway for me so far for the Lakers is that, okay, you brought Russell Westbrook in to be kind of the primary ball handler. I think LeBron James might need to still be the primary ball handler for the Lakers.
Well, if LeBron's the primary ball handler, what's Russell Westbrook going to do? Because he can't shoot.
That's my point. I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to work because LeBron, to me, makes better decisions with the basketball. While you want, Russell Westbrook attacking the rim, off of rebounds and pushing up a tempo, LeBron's a better decision maker with basketball. And I would rather have the ball in his hands, especially, down the stretch. But that defeats the purpose of getting LeBron off ball so that he doesn't have to do nearly as much. And that's a problem if you're a Laker fan.
And that comes back to what I was saying about the fire sale. See, because this, what this team looks like. I think I said it. I can't remember if I said this in the last episode. This team looks like that Cleveland team where you had everybody, Derrick Rose and D Wade and Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and all those on one team. And it didn't work. And by the trade deadline, they traded everybody. And what did they do? They ended up going to the finals. That's what I see getting ready to happen here again. Because this ain't going to work. This ain't going to work. You got Melo who wants to shoot. I mean, anytime the ball touches his hand, he launching it. You can forget about it once it touches Melo's hand.
They needed him.
AD is not playing. AD's not playing well at all. Dwight Howard, he's going to do something stupid every game, which I know that Anthony Davis had right for what he did to him on the bench because I know it was Dwight Howard that did something because he's always doing something dumb. I remember when Steve Nash was getting on him when he was with the Lakers for missing an assignment. He tried to make an excuse. Steve Nash was like, no, man, do your job, bro. Do your job.
Yeah, and you give credit to Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard. They immediately squashed it in the media afterwards because they did have a chance.
Well, because guess what? Dwight Howard didn't touch the floor no more that game.
And why would he? Why would he for the rest of the night that night? Of course he wouldn't.
Yeah, he frustrating everybody.
Yeah, so, I didn't expect him to get back on the floor. But, at least from what it appears that they squashed it, and you can only take it at face value for what they said and how they handled it, which both of them addressed it. They addressed it publicly, and they addressed it in clear terms, which I was fine with. Okay, that's fine. Now, whether or not that's something that lingers on inside that locker room, only that will be told, inside that locker room. So I can only take it for what it is. And if they say they squashed it, I can only believe them at their word at this point.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. But I don't buy it. And listen, I'll be the first one to tell you right here, right now. If the Lakers were to cut Dwight Howard, I'd sign him in a heartbeat over here on the Dallas Mavericks. I just want to throw that out there. I'm doing some GMing right now for the Dallas Mavericks.
Of course, yeah. You're trying to sound like Mark Cuban having regrets by not bringing Dwight Howard in. You can try to make up for that.
At some point, some way, somehow, Mark Cuban's gonna make Dwight Howard a Maverick before it's over with. All the guys that he misses out on and doesn't get, at some point they end up playing for the Dallas Mavericks.
Let's hope not. Hope not.
Well, I want to switch over to something else real quick. Something that's pretty near and dear to the season. I want to talk about these referees, man. Listen, I am loving the way the referees are reffing this game. There's not a whole lot of whistle blowing. There's not a whole lot of stupid fouls and dumb calls being made. This whole jumping into the player, trying to get a foul, it's not working. We're actually seeing – I think that's why the product has been so good here the first week, because of the way the refs are reffing the game now. Do you agree?
Yeah, a real good example is that James Harden really isn't getting to the line the way that he was, in years past. And, part of the NBA's movement to try and get rid of some of those unnatural, shot movements and those kinds of things seems like it's working. I think what will be interesting to see is how referees get more consistent with that and how they interpret that. Because there was a couple of times, especially, in the Hawks game against the Mavericks on opening night, where Trae Young, I thought, committed a couple of offensive fouls, by jumping back, it appeared, into a defender.
Yeah. He made my guy have to get through the hard way, had to get stitches.
Yeah, so there will be some inconsistency with it to start off with, but it feels like, referees are allowing these guys to play a little bit more, which, more offense is good, so I'm okay with things the way that they've gone so far, but that's obviously going to be something that's going to be watched all season long with the kind of intensity that a lot of fans are paying attention to because of how publicized the rule change was. Now, not to dump on the name of our show, because I love our show, the Clear Path here, but that is a foul that they have got to get rid of.
Oh no, we got to keep that.
I'm so sick of the Clear Path foul and stopping momentum of players in transition and stopping fast breaks. I think it's one of the dumbest rules in all of sports, and it's got to go. The Clear Path foul has got to go.
Well, if they get rid of the rule, then we have to change the name of the show, because you can't call it the Clear Path anymore, because they got
because it would open up a clear path. Like, that's the whole point. It would open up a clear path to the basket. So yeah, but they've got to get rid of that rule. I don't like it. I can't stand it. But at the same time, I do like the way that games have been officiated so far. You're just hoping that consistency remains throughout the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs.
Well, let's listen to James Harden, as he had some comments about this whole deal.
Changes and how they're calling the game.
It's still basketball at the end of the day. No matter how much of a big deal we try to make it, a foul is a foul. It's pretty simple. I feel like putting too much emphasis on rules, or not even rules, just certain people, to where you look at it as clear fouls. And but for me, you just got to keep going. No big deal.
Coach.
Somebody who sounds pretty salty about the way that the rule has changed.
Because listen, go ahead.
A lot of that has part of been James Harden's game throughout the years, is being able to get those foul calls. He's not getting them right now, so it's on the players to adjust. It's on the referees to continue to adjust and make sure that they're interpreting and seeing these foul calls correctly, so that it doesn't remain as big a deal as it is. Because right now, it's early on in the season, and everyone's watching to see, is it unnatural movement? Are guys kicking their legs out? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? So at some point in the season, all of this will start to kind of subside. But right now, yeah, we're paying attention to it because this was one of the big rule changes, in the NBA this offseason. So Harden need to get over it and just play ball.
Well, I'd slow up on that a little bit, because I watched 4 players who I see with my own eyes who it affected. You ready for this? Mm-hmm. 1, Russell Westbrook, Trae Young, James Harden, and you're probably not going to like this last one, but Luka was affected by it too in the first game by this new rule change.
It's interesting you mentioned Trae, because during the Hawks-Mavericks game, part of the conversation was that, Trae Young, spoke to a referee extensively throughout the offseason to try and make sure that he was understanding the rule correctly and looking at plays with a referee to figure out whether or not this would have been a foul call here or a foul call there, so that he was adjusting to the rule. So all of these players are going to have to figure out how to adjust to the rule better and make sure that they're in the best position to not only take advantage of the rule when the opportunities arise, but also how referees making sure that they're looking at the foul calls correctly, because at some point these players will adjust enough to where they will make subtle changes to where they will start to create advantages for themselves based on the new rules that they are, because that's the way rules always work. Rules got to have players adjust to them. They'll figure out a way to be able to be better with those rules and use it to their advantage. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Trae Young, James Harden, Doncic, they're going to have to figure out how to adjust. And I think they will as the season goes on.
Well, something that we need to address real quick is apparently the power rankings have come out. And I of course, definitely want to get your thoughts on this to see how you feel about this, because I'm shocked at one of, I think this is the one from SI.com. They actually had the Denver Nuggets as number one on their list.
Okay.
And I was like, well, how's that when I don't think the Warriors have lost a game yet.
Well, neither the Nuggets. I mean, they're 2-0.
I think the Warriors are 3-0 maybe.
Yeah, Warriors are 3-0. Yep. Look, between the Jazz, the Nuggets, the Golden State Warriors, for me, those are my top three in the West at this point. Defensively,
it goes Denver Nuggets, Golden State Warriors, Utah Jazz, Charlotte Hornets, and then the Milwaukee Bucks. But it's funny, they had the Milwaukee Bucks ahead of the Chicago Bulls, who are 3-0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I love, and I told folks, I think I told you this last year. I love the way the Utah Jazz play basketball. I really do. I mean, they're well coached, well disciplined. You've got an anchor in the middle and Rudy Gobert defensively. You got the consummate point guard in Mike Conley. As long as Donovan Mitchell becomes more efficient as a scorer, this team can do some real damage. Once they get deeper into the Western Conference, playoffs. They got Jordan Clarkson there as a terrific six-man. Joe Ingles. Like, they've got a lot of balance on that team, and this is a team that will be reckoned with, all season long. Between them, they'll love the way that the Phoenix Suns play. I love the way that the Phoenix Suns are built. But the Jazz, to me,
apparently they're not paying people over there lately.
Well, that whole contract situation with DeAndre Ayton is something that will continue to be, monitored. They didn't get a deal done before the season started, so we'll see how
James Jones, if I had it correctly, the general manager for them, says that it was about the length of years that they were far apart on. It sounds like he may have wanted like a 2-1, and they were thinking like, yeah, we want you for about 4 or 5. You
know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like they're trying to, pair it and time it when Chris Paul decides to retire.
Right.
Because you notice how well he's played since Chris Paul got there.
Right.
And I don't know if the Suns feel like it's a function of just Chris Paul being there, and they say, hey, by the time Chris Paul gets ready to hang up his career, we may not necessarily want you around anyway. But as long as Chris is here, we're good with you. Because you're playing well. Is it
that or is that he's undersized because they watched him struggle against Milwaukee?
Well, what's different about Milwaukee is that, well, one, there isn't really anyone that can guard Giannis, period.
And then after you get past Giannis, there's Brook Lopez. He couldn't guard Brook Lopez either.
Well, part of that is because Lopez is a stretch five who can nowadays shoot the ball from the 3-point line. So you're pulling Ayton, away from the basket. So, the big man matchup for him was a little bit difficult given the skill sets of Giannis and Lopez's ability to shoot, especially Lopez, his ability to shoot from the 3-point line. So I think Ayton's a good player. I think he's a really good player playing with Chris Paul because of his ability to not only block shots defensively, but more so he's devastating in pick and roll situations with Chris Paul. So, the Phoenix Suns got a lot of problems that they need to fix beyond the basketball court, right now anyway. So I'll just leave it at that. But for me, I would say my top 5 teams right now, as I mentioned, the Jazz, the Nuggets, the Warriors. Also, if I had to go, Brooklyn, I don't know what's going on there. That whole Kyrie Irving thing. Milwaukee, I think, cracks my top 5, and then I'll go with Philadelphia.
Did you see how good Giannis? Did you see how good Giannis was the other night? And he listen, if he can knock that turnaround shot consistently and knock those threes in, there's gonna be nobody who can stop him.
That's the frightening part. Is
right.
that jump shot looks a lot smoother this year than it ever has, and if that's the case, you might as well cancel Christmas on the league, because that's been the one thing throughout Giannis's career that we said, don't let Giannis develop a consistent jump shot. Otherwise, the league is in trouble. And it appears Giannis may have found a jump shot.
He may have found it.
He may have found it. So, yeah, good luck to the rest of the league if that's the case, especially, in the Eastern Conference at this point.
I mean, of course, right now for me, number one is going to be the Warriors on my power rankings. Then I'm going to give the second one to the Chicago Bulls. They're being underrated right now, and I don't think people should take them lightly with that situation. Of course, Milwaukee 3, then I'll throw in Denver, and then Utah.
Well, what you love about Chicago is how well they're playing defensively. They got 30 steals in the first week of the NBA season.
I know, right? Yeah.
Defensively they've been playing, lights out, and you've seen what, Lonzo's doing, what Alex Caruso is doing. And give Billy Donovan credit, so far, they're playing pretty well. I mean, they've got a good lineup. I mean, you got Ball, you got Lonzo Ball, you got DeMar DeRozan, you got Vucevic, and we haven't even mentioned Zach LaVine, who was an all-star. They've got a good lineup there in Chicago to where I would not be shocked if they were a top 6 seed and were able to avoid the playoff, in the Eastern Conference. There was never a question about if once DeMar DeRozan signed there, what kind of lineup they had. The question was, why did DeMar DeRozan go in there if he was seriously trying to win a championship at this point in his career? And if you wanted the money grab, no harm, no foul. Just say that. But don't tell me that you're serious about winning a championship and then you go and sign with Chicago, especially after you met with LeBron James, twice before deciding to go and sign with Chicago. He wanted one more payday, and nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so before we get out of here, let's preview this week's games that are going to be on TV. The big games report, as we like to call it, right there. So first up, we're going to have the 76ers and the Knicks tomorrow night on TNT.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that one?
I said earlier that I enjoyed watching the Knicks play. The 76ers beat up on, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Knicks, coming off a loss against the Orlando Magic. These are two of the teams in the Eastern Conference that should be competing for a top 4 seed, in the East, even despite, what's going on with Ben Simmons there, which it feels like there's a thawing out right now happening between the 76ers and Ben Simmons, which I'm happy to see. It sounds like cooler heads just had to prevail after what happened in the debacle of the postseason, last year, to where things are seemingly thawing out between Ben Simmons and the Sixers. Obviously, there's no return date yet for Simmons as he continues to deal, with mental health and those kinds of things off the floor and whatever he has decided to do. So that should be a fun one, though. Joel Embiid and Julius Randle, that should be a fun matchup to watch between those two teams, though.
Okay, so also on that night, we're going to have Denver and Utah.
Yeah, just like how we talked about, two teams that should compete at the top of the West, even without Jamal Murray, for the Denver Nuggets at this point. They gave a lot of money to Michael Porter Jr., and, of course, they got the reigning MVP in Nikola Jokic. So, again, two teams at the top of the West that should be a lot of fun, should compete deep into the playoffs if you're a fan of both of those teams. And two big men going at it, Nikola Jokic, Rudy Gobert, two of the best big men in all the NBA.
I'm going to take New York on the first one. I'm going to take Denver on the second one on those games. I just think New York is they might have found something. Without Ben Simmons there to slow it down, I don't really see them winning that game. But, it's basketball. Anything can happen. So on Wednesday night on ESPN, we're going to have Atlanta and the New Orleans Pelicans taking on each other, which Atlanta should win that game for me.
What in the world is going on in New Orleans?
And we got Zion maxing out at 300.
Oh, man. Willie Green, new head coach down there in New Orleans. Things have not gone well to start off. And, of course, Zion Williamson's still out, with injury, overweight apparently during the offseason. My man,
he's trying to get traded.
I just don't. I don't get it. Like I don't get it.
He don't want to be there anymore.
I won't say that, but what I will say is that somebody needs to get a hold of him as far as the nutrition something is concerned. Because there's no reason.
His mama wants him out of there too. She's made it known, but they want him up out of there.
Well, if he's trying to play his way out, then that ain't gonna work. Because he's still young in the league here. So Zion got to figure it out. And I hope he gets healthy for one, so they can get on the floor for them.
What's the what's the GM over there in New Orleans?
David Griffin and Trajan Langdon.
He needs to be fired. As long as he's there, that team isn't going to go anywhere.
I mean, I didn't mind that David Griffin hired when they hired him, to run basketball operations. Then they hired Trajan Langdon as their GM, who's been a really good basketball mind for a long time, has worked his way up, the ranks to be able to earn that GM spot. So I thought the front office structure was pretty good. Swing Cash is part of their front office. I thought it was pretty good, but so far it's just been a disaster. So
he needs to be fired. He needs to be fired this season. Also, to Wednesday night, we're gonna have Portland and Memphis. Damian Lillard taking on Ja Morant.
If you love point guards, that is your matchup.
I got to watch them the other night, and I got to watch Dennis Smith Jr. get out there on the court, throw some alley-oops, and do some stuff out there.
I'm happy for Dennis Smith Jr., former Dallas Maverick. I'm happy that it feels like he may have found a home there in Portland, who apparently runs a rehab facility for, busted players, because Carmelo went there, got himself right. Now it looks like Dennis Smith Jr. may be doing a little bit of the same there in Portland. Chauncey Billups, first-year head coach there, too.
Right, so it looks like Thursday there isn't going to be any games on TV, at least. There is no NBA on TNT game. But Friday, we're going to have Miami and Charlotte, and then Dallas at Denver.
Okay, so what got into your man Tyler Hero the other night? Because
definitely need to talk about him.
Because Tyler Hero, look, this is the same dude who's talking about he in the same conversation as Luka Doncic and some of these other cats. First of all, no, that's not the case. But he needs to focus on what he is as a player. And what he is a guy who can score. But more importantly, he's got a chance to learn from one of the best head coaches in the NBA and grow up a little bit. I think that thing got to his head a little bit, when they made the NBA finals, with the snarl and all this other, stuff that he was doing. He needs to settle down and play ball. And if he can, Tyler Hero's a good basketball player. He can learn from Jimmy Butler down there. They can
and
get
Kyle Lowry now.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry, their veteran leader there. So, they should be okay. And of course, with Dallas and Denver, that'll be fun to watch. They had a really
that's gonna be a late game, a 9:00 game.
Yeah, they had a really terrific overtime game, last season when Luka
at the beginning of the season. Yep.
Yeah.
Right around this time last year.
That's right. So that'll be a fun one to watch between Luka and his good buddy Nikola Jokic when the Mavericks take on the Nuggets.
Yeah, man. So listen, man, this was a fun show. I'm glad we got to do this again. And I want to give a special thank you and shout out to everybody who tuned in to the first episode and gave us their comments. I am always welcome to criticism, whether it's good or bad. I love when people comment. Anytime you comment and I see it, I'm going to comment back because I like interacting with people. So, and of course, I told you, you guys love Kevin Gray. There's nothing he can say that's wrong. I know you guys don't like what I say per se, but, it's fine. There was some love and there was some support for me. But, of course, you take the cake. You're America's sweetheart. They love you. They want to hear from you. You have the basketball knowledge, as they say.
I just speak the truth in love, man. That's all I do. Speak the truth in love.
I mean, I offered you a hand, and you kind of turned it down the other day. I offered you a chance.
What kind of broadcast host would I be to back down from a statement that I made?
It's nothing wrong with that. It's just that once you've seen things, you can say, "Well, I had epiphany, and things make sense now." I extended you the olive branch.
It's early. I haven't had that dream yet. It's early.
Of coming off the Dallas Mavericks winning 50 games and coming down to my reality, and that is 40 to 45.
Or how about you raise your level of expectation for the Mavericks based on what you saw last year? How about that?
I'm feeling real good with my expectations being low. See, because this way I don't get my feelings hurt.
That's no way to live. That's no way to live at all.
Well, when it comes to the Mavericks, I have to kind of live that way because you never know when this thing can go.
Now we're getting to the heart. Now we're getting to the heart of the matter. Okay. All right.
Keep telling people where they can find you at.
You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Make sure you hit that follow button there. And also you can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers 105.3 The Fan every single weekend with my partner, the two-time Hall of Famer Chris Arnold. And be covering all things for the Dallas Mavericks for 105.3 The Fan this season. So definitely follow me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube. We'll definitely have regular videos and updates regarding your Dallas Mavericks for the 2021-2022 NBA season.
Yeah, it's real simple. You can find me at FrontRunner88 on Twitter, Walt Chisholm on Facebook. Just like Kevin Gray, I have a YouTube page. It's called Best for Business. Look up BFB Dallas, BFB Mavs, BFB Cowboys, however you want to search it. And because tomorrow night, I don't know, maybe we'll catch up with Kevin Gray at some point in the arena, but tomorrow night, I will be doing a live Dallas Mavericks postgame show from inside the AAC tomorrow night, where we like to party at over there in the F-150, as I like to call it. That's where we party at, Kevin Gray. That's where it goes down over there in the F-150.
Well, I'll catch you over there then.
Yeah. Man, might get you to stop through or something like that. We have a good time over there. Come through. I don't know who's working tomorrow. Come through, get you some food or something like that. Have a good time, man. Just a good time. You can see the game right there. Where you can see the game, it's lovely. It's lovely. You can see everything right there where we party at.
I'll do my best to get over there.
Yeah, man, come on down and kick it with your boy. But hey, man, we want to thank everybody who's gonna tune in. As I say, thank you, Kevin Gray, for doing this with me. And we'll be back here next week. And I'm gonna be, like I said, I'm gonna be trying to. Don't be surprised next week. I might be in front of the Mavs front office, shooting out there in front of the AAC. I need to go over there and talk to the Mavs about some stuff. I might just shoot from outside there. I need to catch up with Coach Kidd or whatever. So we'll go from there.
Right.
Yeah,
we'll do that. How that goes. All right.
We'll do, but we'll be back next week right here with the Clear Path. Thanks, everybody.